This week on Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke, we turn the tables. We've received many questions about our host, Molly. Recently, she appeared as a guest on the YouTube show, Death Taught Us How to Live. Molly shared a little about her life, her own stroke recovery, and reflections on purpose. Molly also offers an overview of the nonprofit organization Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke. Thank you for joining us for our rebroadcast of Molly Buccola's guest appearance on the YouTube show Death Taught Us How to Live.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org.
Hello and welcome to Beyond Stillness. Stroke offers a powerful, life-changing shift in perspective. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. This radio show, Beyond Stillness, offers an hour of pause for storytelling and reflection. Ultimately, Beyond Stillness is a welcoming environment that reveres the moment beyond stroke's paralysis. Still moments unite humanity and divinity.
I have a great and wonderful lady on our show today, the creator, the authentic, the talented Molly. Molly's on our show today. She is the creator of Beyond Stillness. And before we get into all this stuff about Beyond Stillness, I'm going to allow Molly to explain to us who she is, why she on Death Taught Us How to Live, and why she started to live her life and stop complaining and live.
Wow, Greg, thank you. You're quite a talented man yourself. I was born and raised in Oregon. We had a hayfield in front of our house and a forest behind us. And I love alone time growing up. I loved laying in the field and being out in the forest, but I also love spending time with my family and my friends. Half introvert, half extrovert. I also love being in nature. The feel of the cold grass on my feet just brings back so many memories. I'm a very physical person. I played soccer my whole life and ran my first marathon senior year of college. It was about a month after that I suffered a stroke. My college roommate found me. I was only 21, so it took him a while to figure out what was going on. This was 19 years ago. It was in 2005. By the time my family arrived in California, a state away, I was in a coma and they didn't know what else they could do to me, and they thought I was going to die. A priest from the college came and gave me last rites. He gave me the anointing of the sick. At one point, my sister and my mom urged the doctors. They said, "Isn't there anything else you can do? Come on." Pushy, loving family members. And they said, well, we could transfer her to UCSF, which is a teaching hospital, and they can do a medical trial. And so that's what happened. A couple of days later, I began to come back. I don't remember most of the hospital experience, and many of the months passed. I have little snippets in my mind. I had lost my left side and little by little relearned to walk and feed myself and do all the things that you need to do with your left side. And because I was 21, by the time I had recovered enough for people not to notice, I moved and thought, I'm just going to start my life. I didn't know how it all fit. It was out of the blue, and no one I knew had had a stroke. Definitely not anyone my age. I had studied religious studies and psychology in college, and I love world religions. And as I said before, I love alone time. I love writing. I love meditating. I love reading spiritual works from throughout traditions. And I found monks in Silicon Valley. And I ended up moving onto this campus where the monks lived. The monks founded and ran a school in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And so I lived on campus. It's partially a boarding school. Students, faculty, staff, monks lived on campus. And my role there was to create space for individuals and community to reflect on life, on their own lives and their lives in relation to others and their lives in relation to the world. And the monks that I worked with focus on the value of community and communal life and stopping multiple times a day to reflect and connect. And so for 16 years, I got to do that. During COVID, moved home to Oregon to be closer to family. And now I facilitate retreats here in Bend, Oregon for individuals and small groups. And I work with stroke survivors now. I facilitate a support group for caregivers of stroke survivors. I have found there's something very powerful about transitional moments in life. And I have been honored to sit with many stroke survivors one-on-one. Together, we reflect, and over 4 to 6 weeks, they share their stories of wisdom, connection, purpose, and hope. And together we craft a story that they can then share with stroke survivors. So each and every person, I believe, has an important story to tell. It's about creating time and space for ourselves to figure out how it all fits. I feel honored to be here today because this is something that Death Taught Us How to Live focuses on. And Greg, you create space for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Molly. As you guys know, I really love my guest, and I really love Molly. I really love her because she's playing coy. She don't really talk about what happened to her. She wants to bring back people's lives, and she's touching on it just a little bit. You know, we're going to talk about this thing that she do each and every, I guess, every week. You guys put something out beyond stillness, and I found her through a mutual friend, Michelle Humphreys. She connected me with her, and she's like, I want you to talk to this woman because, Greg, she can pull out your story. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let her pull out my story. So, Molly, Beyond Stillness. I love the name itself because we, as stroke survivors, we get to a point that we don't want to do anything, and all of a sudden, you not even trying, you are doing, you're making that seed grow, you giving it life. What is Beyond Stillness, and what made you come up with that concept?
Mm. Beyond Stillness came in the stillness. I love morning meditation, that silence before anyone else wakes up, that still moment. And in that place and in that time, these thoughts and connections and feelings emerge. And so sometimes we just have to sit still. And then also with stroke, we're paralyzed, we're still, and there's something beyond that. And so it's a little play on words, Greg.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So now you come up with the name and you have this talent to talk to people. What do you do to actually bring out these people's stories?
Mm. First, it's connecting. Initially, it started with people from support groups. And I asked if I could meet with them one on one. And little by little, once their stories came out, other people asked and they wanted to share their stories. So they see the final product of a lot of work together. So Beyond Stillness is a nonprofit, and it's not just about the podcast, but it's about the meetings with stroke survivors we create space and time, like I said, guided reflection questions, asking specific moments that may have been transitional for them throughout their recovery and how that has shifted their perspective on life and their relationships.
I'm gonna tell you something. When I first got in contact with you, I was very excited to actually do this with you, to go on this voyage with you. But I tell you what, you was a tough cookie for me. You was like, Greg, what do you think about this? I'm like, you're killing me right now. But it made me really think about where I came from, how far I have transitioned from just being a person laying in that bed to who I am today. And I really appreciate that. You got this talent about yourself that is warm and friendly, and you take information and transform it into beautiful words. What is your secret recipe? I don't know if you want to give it your secret recipe, but what is your thing that makes you get up each and every week and say, hey, I want to take on all your burdens, talk to me, and let's see if we can bring this together? What's that all about? How did you do that?
Hmm. Greg, I think it's about developing a relationship. We meet once a week throughout 1 to 2 months. That's up to 8 meetings. And you're talking about something that's very central to the human experience. So a lot of it is listening and wanting to know more about how that person connects with other people. A life lesson that they've learned. I think we innately want to help each other. Pulling out, what do you want to share with the world? What have you learned through your recovery experience? What do you wish that people knew? What do you know now that you didn't before? What do you believe now that you didn't before? Those questions are very powerful, but I also think just listening is very powerful. I don't think that we give ourselves the time and the space to focus on these questions.
See, that's what I like about you. You do listen, and you and you take the information that people give you and you transform it into something beautiful. I have noticed within this stroke survivor community, and I have never seen this before. Maybe you have seen it by dealing with monks and different things of that nature, but for me, I never seen a community of people that automatically want to help you, they want to show you love, and they are genuinely there for you as the stroke survivor community. So I get what you're saying by people listening to each other, but like I said earlier, you're very coy. You have a talent within yourself that make people want to talk with you. I don't know what it is, because I'm trying to figure out how you do it myself. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how you do it myself, because I want to be that particular way too. But it's just it's refreshing to know within our community there are so many different types of people from different ethnic backgrounds, different social backgrounds. But once we come together as a stroke survivor, it's like, I've known you for years. Do you get that within your community, or do you bring that into the community?
Both. We all do. We all get it from our community and we bring it to our community. And one way to get it from the community is to bring it to the community. I respect the people that show up and all they can do is listen. And that's okay. And sometimes people show up and listen for 6 months and then they say something and you're like, oh, that is good. The stroke community is really special, probably like the Death Taught Us How to Live community, because we've been given this opportunity to reflect on life in a way that other people haven't. And we are able to see the world in the best days. We don't always do this because we're human, but in our best days, we're able to see the world from a bird's eye view and make those little connections between life experiences and what we can offer the world.
Okay. So you had a stroke when you was 21. Like you said, you used to run marathons before that. How did you get from I'm a stroke survivor, I used to run marathons, and not being so depressed and say I'm not going to run again, then all of a sudden you ran again? How did you get this? So the people that's listening that's in that funk right now can make that transition. What did you do?
Again, mine was 19 years ago. My therapist, I've visited therapy facilities since, and they have those big lifts that can hold you as you're walking on the treadmill, etc. My therapist suggested going to the park and trying to run on grass because it wouldn't hurt as much when you fell. As a stroke survivor, you know your balance is off anyway. Walking on grass is really hard. How did I get there? It was tough. I've shared that my mom and I moved in with my sister and her family, and the goal was to be able to walk to the lemon tree. But that started with not being able to walk. And so I was sharing a bed with my mom. When I woke in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, I would have to tap her to wake her up to help me to the restroom. And she would say, "March." And I had to roll my body over so that my legs were on the ground. And she told me I had to march. And that started with me using my hands to lift up my left leg just to do the motion. Little by little, I started to be able to march. So I would lift one leg and then lift my other leg and then lift one leg and then lift the other. So it started without being able to do any of it. And then little by little, as stroke survivors know, it takes a while and it's one step at a time. And there are tough days and there are big celebrations. Like when I was able to stand up on my own, that was awesome. When you're able to take your first step, or when you're able to step down the hall, or to the whatever it is. There are a lot of highs and lows in recovery, and it's about remembering to celebrate the highs.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Like I said, you're so coy, but you basically you went back to that time and you tell us about those highs and lows, I guess those mini wins to get to that larger goal. And those are the things that we need to hear. And a lot of times we forget that we did those many things to get to those particular places. Like you said, it's 19 years ago, and you're going back and you're thinking like, oh, I'm having all these memories flooding back into me. But we don't see it when we're in that position. We think life is over. We're not going to get there. This is it. But you had an excellent mom, and I love your mom for what she said to you. She said, "March, get up, go and do it. Get up. We're going to get there, but you're going to have to do some work. I'm not carrying
Yeah.
you there. I'm not putting you in that wheelchair and just
Yep.
scooting you to the bathroom." Basically, she's saying, "I'm not doing this for the rest of my life. We're going to figure this out." We need people to push us, especially as athletes. You used to run marathons. So as an athlete, you get it. You like in your mind, like, yeah, I got to get up. I got to do
Totally.
this. So this is the thing that I wanted you to talk about, because there are people out there that had that same type of lifestyle that we had as athletes before, but now they just give up. They're like, oh, I can't do this. But yesterday you could have moved your finger. Now you
Right.
can't.
Right.
Celebrate
And
that.
I'm so thankful that the term neuroplasticity has become streamlined,
Right.
because
Right.
I used to just talk to people and say, my brain rewired itself. And that's all I knew how to say. Still, sometimes when I have raging headaches, I'll just go in to get a scan just in case. You can still see those dead parts of the brain, the gray
Right.
parts.
Right.
But here I am. And then also, Greg, I love my mom too. And my parents were really good throughout. My uncle suffered from Lou Gehrig's disease, and he
Oh,
was alive at that time. And my parents were his caregivers for part of that. And so
right.
they would do range of motion with his legs and arms, even though he couldn't move his legs and arms. So he would lay in the bed and they would do that range of motion. And so they started doing that with me. Even though I couldn't use my limbs, they were doing that in hopes that it would reconnect those parts of the brain. And I think that that was helpful.
That's a beautiful thing. Like, you had people in your corner. You had people that understand that. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, your parents was dealing with someone that was disabled, had Lou Gehrig's disease, and they understood how to motivate or move people's limbs, just like how your limbs needed to be moved, or they get stiff and they will not be able to move at all in the future. I get that. But you said something that I want to circle back to. You said, when you get these headaches, sometimes you get these scans to make sure nothing else is going on, but there's still gray matter in your brain. that gray matter, that those dead spots in neuroplasticity. Those are concept that has been streamlined, yes, but I don't think people really understand. I'm talking about outside of a stroke survivor. They don't understand how impactful a stroke is for a person's entire life. The analogy that I always bring up about strokes is if a person has a scar on their skin, you get a cut, your skin will never heal the same exact way as it was before it had a cut. It's going to have a permanent scar. Like I have scars on my hand from football, basketball, whatever. Those scars never go away. Body healed itself the best way it could, but that's what it is. That's the same thing with neuroplasticity. Those brain cells are gone, but somewhere or another, our brain set up a different pathway to actually do things. And such that we're doing things a little bit differently, but it's good for us, it's okay for us, but it's a little bit slower than what other people would normally think, quote unquote, to be normal. Is that a good way to analyze it, or do you have a better way to bring this out for us?
I love that. I've thought a lot about gray. Can you call it a color? Gray. There's a lot of gray area in recovery because the path isn't laid out for us.
Mm-hmm.
Every single stroke survivor has a different recovery because we all have different personalities. We all have different experiences. Stroke affects people differently, different parts of the body, different parts of the mind. And the doctor can't tell you exactly what you're going to be able to do and how long from now. No one can. And so that gray area is difficult. We're so used to having answers and knowing how things work and knowing our path. And there's something that we just have to let go of. There's a lot we have to let go of when we're faced with gray. And somehow it works. Our path illuminates, whether it be our stroke recovery, our perspective on life, our next step in recovery, our next step in life. Maybe we're not a stroke survivor, but little by little, we're able to make it happen. We can't always explain it.
I get it. Molly, what is something that you find to be a common thread? But what's that common thing that you hear from caregivers, stroke survivors, that if they do this, they can achieve and pass that particular hurdle? What is that?
People have to come to it on their own. We can create that space, but that's the common thing. They can hear other people's stories. They can put themselves in certain environments. We can tell people things, but they have to come to it on their own. And I think that's what's so beautiful about the one-on-one conversations is they may have this on their own already and they want to share that with others, which is beautiful. But over 6 weeks, I get to hear a process of someone talking through transformational moments in their lives. And then they're like, yeah, I want to share this. I want to share this. I want to share this. And I think when we create space for ourselves and allow ourselves to be at peace and heard, then we're able to contribute. Contribution is a big part. A lot of times when we are going through recovery, our lives have been taken from us. We are no longer the person we were before. We're not producing in the same way at work. We're not the same team parent or whatever it was that we were holding on to. In fact, Greg, your story is really powerful in this way and coming to ways to accept the release of who you were before the stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, what are my strengths, my talents, my life experiences that I can contribute to the world in a different way? We all have something. Each of us have something in our lives that is inspirational. It's about figuring out how to message that.
You know what I heard from all of that?
What?
Be kind, be patient with yourself. Don't try to make it a race like you do. You run marathons. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. So you have to be patient with yourself. Enjoy the ride, because you're going to have a ride. There's going to be some potholes. You might get a flat tire, but you're moving toward the direction of being healed. And like you said all the time, the word you use is beautiful. And I love that. I love that. All right, Molly, let's talk about your nonprofit organization. What it's about, how can we find it, and what can we do to serve you to make it better? I want to bring up on the screen the actual website. And when I bring up the website, can you just navigate me through the website so you can tell people how they can find things about Beyond Stillness?
So first and foremost, like I said, each week we share a different stroke survivor's story, and that's the culmination of all of our meetings together. That's the final product of the reflection sessions, and you can listen to the stories there. You can also listen on most podcast platforms, Audible, Apple, Spotify, etc. Unfortunately, you can't see it on YouTube. They just got rid of their podcasting services. So we're in transition there. We have about 7 months of stories there, a different person each week. And one thing that I love about this work is they're from all over the country. For example, I met with Tracy. She was a recent guest, and she's a fitness instructor, and she's 42, and she's vivacious. She's very deep, but she's very much a motivational person. And then the next day I met for the first time with a 72-year-old from Indiana that repairs chainsaws. And it was just a vastly different conversation, yet they're conversations about life, humanity, spirituality. And I love that this brings voices from all over the country. And we've had guests from outside of the country too, in a common human reflection space. So those are the stories and interviews right there. Those are the weekly stories and interviews. Also, for people who are interested in sharing their story, there's a tab up top that says story creation. And the story creation lays out the process, how we come to that final product, that story that's shared on the podcast. So people can get an idea of what happens in the first meeting, the questions that I might have for them, and then how the meetings progress from there.
Okay.
And there are a lot of testimonials. I love the relationships that are developed. It's quite a community because of the depth of sharing throughout those months. Impact beyond. I've had people finish our time together and start volunteering in the community, start sharing their story at their hospital with recent stroke survivors. People have restarted therapy after years of being away. People have started their own support groups, which I think is awesome. They're like, yeah, I have something to give. Here it is. So I love the follow-up emails after our time together. People come back and talk about how important it is. Another part of it is reconnecting with their friends and family that were supportive right after the stroke, but also were inspiring and are inspiring to them. So oftentimes they share their stories with the doctors that were present, the nurses that were present, therapists that pushed them, all these people that were part of their process. When they share their story, oftentimes they mention those people in the story and then share that story with those people. So their whole community hears how important their presence was or is within the recovery process.
Molly, geez, you're such a wonderful woman. And I love that you're doing this. If I wanted to, and I already have, but if I wanted to, as a stroke survivor, have you do a story for me and tell my side of things and how I came to existence of who I am today. Is there like an interview process that you have to go through, or do you just want anybody that's a stroke survivor?
Well, one, I can't tell your story. The stories are crafted from our meetings. I take notes. And some people, when I hear them talk, I say, write 2 pages on that and send it to me before next week. And then we work on editing that. And then there are other people, due to their stroke, aren't able to write. And so I will type as they're talking. And that's the way that we get their words on paper. So there are different ways to construct the story, but the story is that person's story. So I can't write their story for them. It's a process of that person talking, and then we organize it to put it into a story format. But that's that. And yes, there's a little bit of an interview process. I meet with individuals, and in that first meeting, we can tell there has to be a relationship. We have to trust each other enough. It's like showing up to a blind date. We don't know if this is going to work or not. We're going to be together for the next 4 to 6 weeks. We have to trust the person. There are also sometimes that people show up and they're not in a space yet to share their story through the lens of wisdom, connection, purpose, and hope. And the whole point of sharing these stories is to offer inspiration. And sometimes it takes a while to get to a space. And so sometimes when I meet with people, I'll ask questions and we'll have more conversations, and then we'll think maybe we're not ready to share yet. But sometimes there needs to be more space between the moment of darkness and the moment that we tell people about the moment of darkness. We have to sit with it and think about how we got through that before we can tell people how we got through that.
I get that. I love that.
Mm.
I actually love that. I got jaded early on when I started doing these podcasts because I was dealing with people that wasn't ready. And I was
Mm.
interviewing them. I'm like, I could tell this is not right. And felt bad when I told them during my pre-interview process. I always pre-interview my guests now to see if we actually make a fit and to actually do a show. And it was some people I would have to tell them, nah, this doesn't work. We can't do this at this moment. And I felt like some type of animosity towards me, and it hurt me really bad. It made me want to stop doing it. Then I had to realize I need to be honest and truthful with these people because someone had to be honest and truthful with me too. Like your mother said, March. I had to do that for them. So later on, they could come back to me and say, Greg, I am ready. It's time to do an interview. I'm like, all right, cool.
Huh.
So yes, we love you and we want to bring you up. But as you said before, you have to be ready. You have to be able to do the work. Because if you're not ready to do the work, like you said, you can't write the story for them. They have to talk the story out, and then you help them put the words together in the proper order. So I get that. And I really appreciate you for that too.
And I think
Molly.
they know when they're in that situation. Sometimes it's a few meetings, and then I ask, okay, what are the tools that you use to get through that? Or I ask, how has that helped you? And sometimes people are stumped, and again, they have to come to it on their own and realize everything that I'm writing right now is really tough, and I need to work on this. So in a way, it's putting a mirror up and saying, okay, how are we going to get through this?
I get that. I get it. Well, Molly, we're at the end of our show, and at this particular time, we do our hot seat questions. So I'm going to ask you about 5 or 6 questions, and I want you to give me 30-second sound bites. First question: how did you get out of the darkness when you first had your stroke?
I change the scene. So if I'm inside, I get someone to get me outside. If I'm outside, I need to get inside. If I'm with people, maybe I need to be alone. If I'm alone, maybe I need to be with people. I breathe, I focus on my breath, but I have to change the scene.
Are you ready for the next question?
I am. Are you?
I I love it. Question number 2. Question number 2. What was the hardest part of your stroke recovery?
The what ifs, the fear. What if I don't get better? What if I don't have a purpose in my life? I think another hard thing is that most loved ones didn't fully understand. I didn't know other stroke survivors, so I see great importance now in connecting with other stroke survivors.
Okay. Question number 3. What advice would you give someone in their first year of stroke recovery?
It gets better and it takes time. It's important to find a new purpose because I believe we all have something to give. It's important to reflect on what you can still do and offer that to other people.
Okay. Question number 4. What do you want people to know that is not easy for a young stroke survivor to explain?
I want other people to know that they can all be an inspiration to others. Every single one of us, regardless of our age or our life experience, has some wisdom. We all know deep down who our inspired selves are. And it's important to be and become your inspired self.
Okay. Question number 5. What misconception do people have about stroke survivors?
I remember right after my stroke, people didn't know how to act around me. And we're still who we are. And it's important to be there for each other.
Final question. What did the threat of death teach you?
Many spiritual traditions talk about keeping death in our awareness. St. Benedict's rule says, keep death before your eyes daily. So that sounds morbid, but it also reminds us that we have one shot in this life. So live it. It's important to be ourselves and become who we're meant to be. Take the bird's eye view.
Okay. Okay. Molly Buccola, you have officially done the hot seat questions. You're off the hot seat. Now it's your show. Now it's your show. It's time for you to close us out. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. So at this point, I just want to remind each and every person that it's important to create space for yourself. You have all sorts of wisdom. You have life experiences and a perspective on those life experiences, and you have something to give. So give yourself that space, give yourself that time, and allow yourself to shine. So Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is a space for stroke survivors to reflect, a space for each stroke survivor to take time and think about their transformational moments, their process that they're going through. And it's a moment for them to share their wisdom with other stroke survivors. Because I believe that every stroke survivor has a story to share. I believe that every stroke survivor is more than support, they're inspiration.
Someone in the U.S. suffers a stroke every 40 seconds. It's a leading cause of long-term disability in this country. Stroke recovery often feels discouraging and isolating. Our team at Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is working to address that. Within the past 7 months, an idea blossomed into a community that has reached 42 states and 20 countries. We founded the nonprofit Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke to sustain and spread our mission to empower stroke survivors to articulate and publicly share their stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope. We are more than a podcast. Before actually recording, as I said before, each guest meets with Beyond Stillness for one-on-one guided reflection sessions throughout 4 to 6 weeks. Beyond Stillness and the guest take pearls of wisdom from the conversations and draft the story together. The podcast is a culmination of their personalized sessions. The published episodes serve as a gift of inspiration and hope to fellow stroke survivors. The stories and interviews are also gifts of gratitude to support groups, doctors, nurses, therapists, family, friends, and everyone else who has accompanied the guest along their recovery journey. But we do need help of others to sustain and spread unique stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope each week. We are asking for financial support. All tax-deductible donations directly fund our programs that facilitate personalized reflection sessions with stroke survivors, assist stroke survivors in writing and sharing their stories, and generate stroke survivor storytelling workshops. Other ways to support are to subscribe to the podcast, share episodes, nominate guests, and share your story. You can find us at www.beyondstillness.org. Again, thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Molly. I really appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing with Beyond Stillness. And I thank you so much for coming on Deaf Taught Us How to Live and telling us your story and also how you inspire people to tell their stories. Please make sure you check her out. And she's also on strokewarriorradio.com. You can find her there as well. Thank you so much, my sister, for joining us and talking with us today. I love each and every moment that I speak with you. I really appreciate you. You're a beautiful spirit and you're a beautiful person. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for allowing us time to reflect on death and how it taught us to live. It's important.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you guys next time, and hopefully everything is well with you in your life. AVM Superhero, out.
Thank you for devoting time and space to listen to our rebroadcast of Molly Buccola's guest appearance on the YouTube show Death Taught Us How to Live. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. In this episode of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke, we heard a little about Molly Buccola's life, her own stroke recovery, and reflections on purpose. Molly also offered an overview for nonprofit organization Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke. Again, thanks for listening, and remember, as part of the stroke community, you are more than supportive, you are inspirational.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org. Another way to support is to like, share, or subscribe to our weekly show. Again, thank you for devoting time and space for this week's episode of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke.
If you are part of the stroke community and have a story you'd like to share on the show, please contact us. Email molly@beyondstillness.org.